Hello everyone in the multiverse and beyond. This is your friend forever, Evan Lefavor, and it is that special time of year again. That's right, it's October of the year 2020 as of me making this video, and it is time once again for the annual 111 Illuminati Halloween special. And this year, instead of waiting for Halloween to do a live stream, to do a live show, to do the Halloween special, I am bringing you the 111 Illuminati Halloween special for 2020 in the beginning of October so that everyone can celebrate all October long and enjoy this Halloween special all month long for 2020. So what is this year's Halloween special? This year, I am going to be doing something very special for you. This year, if you think about it, one of the biggest things about Halloween is watching horror movies. Watching scary movies is such a fixture of the entire holiday. It's part of the whole month of October. The right way to do it is to marathon a bunch of great horror movies to celebrate Halloween every year throughout the month of October. So this year, for the Halloween special, I am going to be bringing you my versions of some great horror movies, because in case you didn't know, your friend forever, Evan Lefavor, I'm not just a video game designer, I'm also a screenwriter and director as well. So I've written many movie scripts before, and I am going to be telling you my versions tonight of Evan Lefavor's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Evan Lefavor's Evil Dead, Evan Lefavor's Child's Play, Evan Lefavor's Halloween Season of the Witch, Halloween 3 remake, Evan Lefavor's Nightmare on Elm Street, and Evan Lefavor's Scream Again. That's right, a Scream movie. Wait till you hear this one. You're gonna fucking love it. You're gonna love all these movies, so make sure to watch this entire video, because these movies that I'm about to describe to you are gonna be so fucking good that you're gonna wish you could watch them all this Halloween. But hey, at least we have this video so we can kind of experience these movies, these potential hypothetical horror movies, together right here on 111 Illuminati Halloween 2020. Ooh-wee. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Evan Lefavor Halloween Special 2020. Buckle your safety belts. This is gonna be a wild ride. Ooh-wee.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, may very well be one of the most underrated horror movies of all time. And your friend forever, Evan Lefavor, yep, that's me. I actually have an idea, a brilliant idea that I've come up with to do a remake, a reimagining, if you will, of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And this is why I am about to present to you Evan Lefavor's Halloween Season of the Witch. Buckle your motherfucking safety belts, because Halloween Season of the Witch is about to begin. So the movie Halloween Season of the Witch opens up, and there you see the Michael Myers mask, right there, the classic Halloween Michael Myers mask is sitting there on a dummy mannequin head on this table, and this camera slowly zooms in on it. As you hear the Halloween music playing, slowly zooms in, and you see someone walk into frame and they pull the mask off of the mannequin head, and You see a hand pull it up, and this hand has gloves on, and you see this spray, and they start spraying the entire inside of the mask with this spray, right? And the people take the mask and they come in and they go into this room and they set it on this table. And they go outside of the room, and this is when the credits are coming on and the music's playing. Okay? And so then we cut to this scene, and there's these two agents. They're in this room. There's a table. There's the Michael Myers mask on the table. And then the door opens, and these guards walk this guy in, and he's in handcuffs. And this dude, he's got like, you know, a jumpsuit on, you know, like a prison suit or a hospital suit or something, you know. And he sits down. And he's like, what am I doing here? What am I here for? And the two agents get up and they take the dude's handcuffs off. And they're like, we need you to put on the mask. Put on this mask. And you see that there's a two-way mirror. And outside of the mirror, there are these two guys, these two agents, watching everything that's going on. So the dude takes the mask and he reluctantly puts on the Michael Myers mask. And then all of a sudden, he starts twitching, he starts going crazy, and he starts attacking the people, the two agents in the room, and he's like choking one and it breaks his neck, and he gets up and he just like takes the other guy's head and he slams it into the two-way mirror. Boom, 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 boom. And then the guards come in and they shoot him. He's like, and he's still coming at the guards, and he grabs one of the guards and he starts poking the guard's eyes out. And he's got the Michael Myers mask on. And the other guard, boom, 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 shoots him in the head. And finally, he drops dead. Then it cuts back to the two agents who are watching it all through the two-way mirror. It's just blood splattered all over the two-way mirror. And they're like, it's as easy as that, huh? And the other agent is like, yes, it's completely skin soluble and it takes effect almost immediately. So, boom. Then it cuts to this little clown mask, and they're spraying the same stuff on the inside of this clown mask. Cut to Haddonfield General Store, and you see the agent walking into the store, and he pulls the clown mask out from his coat and puts it on the rack. The same clown mask that was sprayed with this stuff. He puts it on the rack, and you see on the tag on the mask, it says Silver Shamrock. Ooh wee. And he walks out of the store. And as soon as he walks in walks this woman, this man, and their son. And the son goes right to the Halloween section, and mom goes, Michael, come back here, Michael. So this little kid goes over, he grabs the clown mask, the Silver Shamrock clown mask off of that. He's like, Mom, this is what I want to wear for Halloween, please. And his dad's like, that's not even scary, Michael. Come on, that's not even scary. He's like, please, Dad, I want to be a clown for Halloween. And they're like, okay, and they buy him the mask, right? Cut to that night, because yes, it is Halloween. I forgot to mention that. Halloween. And boom, it cuts to that night. Little Michael puts on the clown mask, and all of a sudden, here's a recreation of the original scene from the original Halloween, the opening scene from the original Halloween. You're seeing out of little Michael's eyes from beneath the mask as he goes crazy and kills his sister and her boyfriend up in her room on Halloween night. And we pull out and we see that it was Michael Myers right there in Haddonfield, Michael Myers, right? And it was because he was wearing a silver shamrock mask. So the whole plot of the movie is, spoiler alert, the Silver Shamrock Mask Company is a secret government organization that is going to try to spray this spray. They've come up with a drug that absorbs into your skin when you wear one of these masks. And this drug turns you into an unstoppable killing machine. It fills you full of rage. It turns off your humanity, your empathy, and it gives you superhuman abilities and strength and the ability to withstand bullet wounds and all kinds of different wounds and keep going. So it turns you into a literal monster when it absorbs into your skin. And the Silver Shamrock Company has this big plan to put this in all the Halloween masks so that on Halloween night, all the children will turn into unstoppable killing machines. So, the next scene, there is a documentary film crew that is doing a documentary in Haddonfield on the anniversary of the Michael Myers killings, when young little Michael killed his family that night. That is what they're there for. So they're there, they're doing the documentary. It's Halloween night, and we're introduced to our main character, who's a little boy and who happens to be a Jehovah's Witness. His family is a Jehovah's Witness family. And you know, Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't celebrate holidays. And this little kid, he loves horror movies and he wants to celebrate Halloween. But he never gets to celebrate Halloween ever in his life, not once, because he's a Jehovah's Witness. So he goes to school and all his friends are talking about all the cool stuff they're going to do for Halloween and all the candy they're going to get and all the horror movies they're watching. And he doesn't get to do any of it because he's a Jehovah's Witness. So anyway, boom. Everybody is getting ready for Halloween night. It's all ready for the trick-or-treating. And all of these kids all around Haddonfield are putting on their Silver Shamrock masks and their Silver Shamrock face paint. And all of these products have this chemical inside of it. So, boom, Halloween night happens. And all of a sudden, all of the children, all the little trick-or-treaters suddenly turn into homicidal, unstoppable killing machines. Rage-filled, unstoppable killing machines. And they go house to house, ringing the doorbell, killing the adults inside. That's right. We design each and every one of the trick-or-treaters. We have 3 of them that are based on the iconic 3 masks from Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. We've got the kid with the pumpkin head mask, we've got the kid with the witch mask, and we've got the kid with the skeleton mask. That's right. Those are our 3 main slashers of all the trick-or-treaters. But we've got others too. We've got other great little Halloween costumes, and each one is their own little slasher. So it's a Halloween slasher movie where the killers are all these little kids in Halloween costumes that are going around killing the adults, ringing on doorbells, busting through the windows, doing whatever they can to get in and kill the people inside. So it literally turns the holiday of Halloween on its head. It turns it into something that adults could actually be scared of. So they watch Halloween Season of the Witch, and then every year at Halloween, they go, oh man, I'm scared, because what if that movie came true? And then all the trick-or-treaters weren't just here for candy, they were here to kill me. So that's what makes Evan Lefavor's Halloween Season of the Witch work so well. Because we have each different kid has a unique costume that makes them a unique character, and you never see their faces, you just see the masks. And they're all like Michael Myers, but they all have their little personality. And it's a conundrum because the parents are trying to survive, and the little Jehovah's Witness kid, he didn't have a mask, so he didn't get infected. He's trying to survive. And the whole everyone in Haddonfield's trying to survive this, but there's these maniacal kids everywhere trying to kill everybody, and the adults can't fight back because they'd harm the kids. So they're just trying to survive. So it's this catch-22 where the adults can't really fight back. And they don't know why all these kids are going crazy. But it's all the Silver Shamrock Company. And of course, we have a conspiracy theory character who is on to the scent of the Silver Shamrock Company. And he's trying to warn people, and he's got a theory that they had something to do with the Michael Myers killings and all this. And so it all fits together, and it's just a fun Halloween movie. It's a marriage of Halloween with this concept of the holiday of Halloween. So it's like and it really solidifies it and makes it scary, because here we have all these crazy killer kids out there just killing everybody, and it makes it really scary. It's kind of like a zombie movie almost, and there's like people are stuck in their homes, and the little trick-or-treaters are showing up to murder them. That's fucking great. So this is a reimagining of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, but it is Halloween Season of the Witch. I don't want to call it Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. The name of this movie is Halloween Season of the Witch. So it can be an offshoot. It can be an offshoot to whatever they're doing with the original. And it can even be in continuity with the original in many ways. Because, at the end of the movie, of course, we see that Michael Myers, who is now an adult in prison, gets a Michael Myers mask in the mail. That's the end. From Silver Shamrock. He gets a little package from Silver Shamrock, and it's the classic Michael Myers mask. And then he just looks at it, and it's like... Because the original Halloween 3 Season of the Witch really didn't have any connections to the original Halloween mythos involving Michael Myers. So when I reimagined it, I wanted that to be a big part of it. Chucky! God damn it, Chucky. Good stage diving, man. Jesus Christ. God damn it. Crazy ass doll. Crazy ass doll. Jesus Christ. Good guy down. Good guy down. So when I reimagined Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, I wanted to marry the mythos of Michael Myers and Halloween with the mythos of the Silver Shamrock Company, and kind of merge the two together into something cohesive, and that's why it's called Halloween Season of the Witch. Are you ready to experience Evan Lefavor's Evil Dead? I have the perfect reboot reimagining of Evil Dead. Yes, the character of Ash is in this movie, because you can't really do Evil Dead right without the character of Ash. When I say Ash, yes, I am talking about recasting the role, a younger actor who can take up the mantle of Ash and hopefully fill the shoes of Bruce Campbell. I know those are big shoes to fill, but hear me out on this. Hear me out on this, because I think once you hear my pitch for the reboot of Evil Dead, you will be all on board for this movie and want to see it immediately. So we open the movie and we are introduced to our two sets of main characters. First, there's Ash and his girlfriend, who are newly engaged. That's right, Ash had just popped the question, so they're lovebirds, they're in love, they're having fun, and they're going camping out in the woods, and they're just going to celebrate. This is kind of like their little honeymoon type situation, just to celebrate their engagement. And so they've got some LSD that they're going to take together out in the woods and have a tripped out time and just party. right? So they're on the road trip out to the woods. But guess what? So is our next group of people who are the next main characters of Evil Dead, which is the Johnson family. The Johnson family. It's a family, mom, a dad, teenage girl, and a younger brother, and a baby, all together on a road trip out to their cabin because they've inherited a cabin from their uncle who just died. And they're out to go take a look at the cabin, stay there for a while, check it all out. And yeah, so our two groups of main characters meet at the gas station. Actually, before they get to the gas station, they almost get into an accident with each other. And then later on, they meet at the gas station. And you see them, the guy at the gas station sees them get in an altercation. Like the dad is pissed at Ash. He's like, "You asshole, you almost fucking got me in an accident, man, blah, 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 blah." So he sees that there's an altercation. So they go their separate ways. The family shows up at the cabin. They're going through the cabin and blah, 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 blah. And the kids find that there's a hidden basement under this rug. And they lift open this wooden door, this wooden trap door. And they go down there and they find the Necronomicon and a tape recorder. And they start playing the tape recorder, and it's their uncle on the tape recorder. And he starts talking about the Book of the Dead. And all the while, here's Ash and his girlfriend. They're setting up the tents. They're in the tents. They're having fun. They took their LSD and they're tripping, right? They're starting to trip. And Ash is in the tent with his girlfriend. And they're like, "Hey, why don't we have sex? Why don't we have sex while we're tripping, while the trip comes on?" And so they're in the tent. Ash is laying there. And his girlfriend's on top of him, right? And then it cuts back to the cabin. And they're listening to the tape recorder. And their uncle is reading these words out of the Necronomicon. And he's like, "Kandar, Uso, Umba." And he's saying all these words, and like all of a sudden, like you see some shit come alive in the woods, and it's like all his evil spirits awakening and shit. It's like going through like a first person. You're seeing out of this evil spirit's eyes as it flies through the sky, through these trees, and up to the tent where Ash and his girlfriend are. And it goes into Ash's girlfriend. And all of a sudden, you see Ash, you see from his perspective, you see down at his face, he's like, "Oh God, it's starting to take hold. It's starting to take hold." And all the tent is moving around. And everything around him is moving. And he looks up at his girlfriend, and her eyes are rolled back in her head, and she starts laughing like an evil laugh. And she's laughing this evil laugh. She starts cackling, and she starts going, "I'll swallow your soul." And she starts attacking him, right? And she's like possessed by a demon. And like, she starts attacking him, and the tent's flying all over the place. So they start fighting, and they're bouncing all around the tent, and the tent is getting torn over. And she's just like a fucking animal, like a demon, and she's like crawling at him. She's naked, and she's like fucking crawling out at Ash. And he's like, "Hey, baby, stop. And she's coming after him like, and her head's like spinning around in circles and shit, and her eyes are in the back of her head. He's like, "Holy fuck." And everything else is moving, and he doesn't know if it's the goddamn LSD or if it's what the fuck is going on. So he's like, stay the fuck back. And she like starts like stabbing at him and clawing at him, and she actually draws blood on him, and he's like, "Holy fuck." So he has to defend himself, and he grabs this fucking weapon and boom, chops her head off. And her head is still talking. Her head is still moving around and talking to him, and her body is still coming after him. And he's like, "Holy fuck." And he like pushes her down and He starts running through the woods, and he's going crazy, and everything's moving around. The trees are moving, and the leaves on the floor are moving because Ash is tripping. He is on LSD, even though he is getting attacked by fucking evil deadites. The evil dead are fucking attacking him. He's also on LSD. So he's running through the woods, and everything's trippy, and everything's crazy. And he comes up to the cabin, and he busts on the cabin, and who opens the door but the dad, and the dad who hates Ash. He's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And he's like, come on, let me in, help me, blah, my girlfriend's gone crazy. And like everything's still moving and shit. And so he starts telling them he was just with his girl. He's like, I'm just with my girlfriend, and she went crazy. It was like she was possessed, and she started attacking me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. And then, like, all of a sudden, all this evil shit starts happening in the house. Lights start going off, and like it's all scary and shit. And what happens? The baby is alone in its own room in the crib, right? Because they already put the baby in this crib. And so they go in to check on the baby, and it's all dark. There's no lights on in the cabin, and they're like, got the little candle. They start approaching the baby, and they can't see the baby, but there's just the sheets in here. And then the fucking baby just jumps up and starts flying around, and it's all possessed and shit. And it's like, it starts puking everywhere. And like, yes, the baby is the first of the family members to get possessed. So they're like trying to stop the baby, and they're like trying to like hold it down and shit. And one by one, each of the family members starts getting possessed by the evil dead and attacking the other ones. Right? But they can't harm any of them. They can't, because they don't want to hurt anybody. But in the end, Ash ends up he's the last one alive. In the end, Ash is the only human being left that's not possessed by the evil dead, and his whole family is attacking him. And he's got to take out the baby, he's got to take out the dad, the mom, everybody. He's got to take them out. So he does, and he's like tripping out, and the evil dead are attacking him left and right. And then it's like, dead by dawn, and it's like the peak, and then the sun rises, and all the evil dead go away. Everything goes away. And these cop cars show up, and the cops come in, and they arrest Ash, and they find all the family members dead, and they arrest him for murder. So Ash gets arrested for murder, and it cuts to his trial. They're doing a live televised trial, O.J. Simpson style, and it's like the biggest trial of the century. And they're like, the drug test proved he had LSD in his system when the murders took place. And the judge is like, is this correct? And the medical examiner's like, yes, this is correct. And the prosecutor's like, the defendant claims that these words were uttered on a tape recording, and it awoken evil spirits that possessed these people. And they're making it look like Ash is just completely insane, and that he's just this crazy guy who went crazy on LSD and murdered a bunch of innocent people. And so they pull out the tape recorder, right? And they're like, yeah, let's play this. And Ash is like, I don't think you should do this. And they push play, and it's the uncle reading the words from the Necronomicon again, except this time it's being broadcasted over the entire world, over this big televised trial that's being simulcasted everywhere. And boom, all of a sudden everyone around the world starts getting possessed by the evil dead, and the whole ending of the movie is just cutting to all these places around the world where all of a sudden, like, people are just becoming possessed by the evil dead and going crazy and attacking people, and it's just going to be so awesome. So it does open it up for a sequel where Ash comes back to stop the evil dead from taking over the world. Yeah, we definitely have to get someone who can pull off the same kind of shit that Bruce Campbell did when he was in his prime. Not saying that you're not in your prime anymore, Bruce. Don't get me wrong, buddy. But yeah, so Evan Lefavor's Evil Dead, it tries to be scary. The reason why it's scary is because you don't want to see this family get possessed by the Evil Dead. And it's actually scary when it happens. And you see how the other family members react to their loved ones becoming demons suddenly. It's kind of like, I want to take that same level of intensity that The Exorcist had and kind of put that in an Evil Dead kind of framework so that you really feel empathy and horror, the horror that these family members are going through to see their loved ones become possessed and not know what to do. So it becomes a terrifying experience. And then, yes, after it gets to a certain point of actually being really, really scary, the finale where Ash has to defend himself against the Evil Dead family that is now possessed by the Evil Dead, I want it to get a little into Evil Dead 2 territory where it's more gory and it's more, it's that kind of intense kind of gore, horror, and kind of a little slapsticks thrown in there. Because the first half of the movie was really intense and horrific. It's like The Exorcist on steroids. It's a really grueling, intense, horrifying experience for the audience. I want the ending to be kind of a release. I want it to have some comedy in there, some slapstick humor, a lot of gore. Just take things over the top in an Evil Dead 2 kind of way to kind of give them some relief from going through such a stressful situation. So yeah, that's Evan Lefavor's Evil Dead. Do you think this is the Evil Dead movie you want to see? Let me know. Let me know. Just recently, the Wes Craven estate gained the rights to make any future Nightmare on Elm Street or Freddy Krueger related movies or projects. And they were taking pitches on Nightmare on Elm Street reboots. So I threw my hat in the ring and I came up with a pitch that I actually got sent to the Wes Craven estate. And they've got a lot of people. Elijah Wood was pitching them their version. There was all these people pitching their versions. So I thought, why not read the pitch to all of you? I could describe the movie, but let me read the pitch first. The original A Nightmare on Elm Street was called A Nightmare on Elm Street. My reboot is called Evan Lefavor's Nightmare on Elm Street. That's right, we got rid of the It's just Nightmare on Elm Street. Here we go. Nightmare on Elm Street by Evan Lefavor. Experience the rebirth of the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Nightmare on Elm Street is a modern-day reimagining of the classic horror tale of Elm Street and Freddy Krueger. The film centers on a ragtag group of foster children, ages ranging from 9 to 13, living in a foster home on Elm Street. The kids all suffer from horrible nightmares until one of them dies in their sleep during a nightmare one night. The group of kids begin to investigate the mystery surrounding the death of their friend, only to uncover a hidden secret involving their biological parents and a man named Freddy Krueger. Will the kids be able to stay awake and solve the mystery in time to stop this menacing force that is trying to kill them in their dreams? In the tradition of It and Stranger Things, Nightmare on Elm Street returns Freddy Krueger to his roots of being a child murderer as he faces off against a group of kids who hold the secret to stopping him once and for all. Nightmare on Elm Street is focused on getting the audience to really like this group of kids and not want to see any of them die. This adds to the tension of the film. The goal is to make this group of kids even more iconic and likable than the Goonies, so that when they are in perilous situations, the audience is truly scared for their lives. Nightmare on Elm Street is not a slasher movie, but rather an intense horror film focused on creating horrifying nightmare scenes that will stick with the audience long after the movie is over, and creating true tension by putting characters you care about in perilous situations. Freddy Krueger himself is rarely front and center during these nightmares within the film. We get the sense that Freddy Krueger is creating the entire nightmare, but the nightmare itself is the real star of the show, not Freddy. When Freddy does make an appearance, it is done with great effect. The Freddy Krueger of Nightmare on Elm Street is not just a wise-cracking, creepy old burnt man. He is the personification of creepy, the epitome of evil. For the look of Freddy, the goal is to emulate the Kevin Yeager era Freddy makeup to a T. We want this Freddy to look just like the original Freddy, but act even more creepy, sinister, disgusting, and evil. Freddy will still have his occasional one-liners in the film, but they will always be juxtaposed with something shocking and horrific happening as to never turn the tone of the film from horror into comedy. The goal is to make Nightmare on Elm Street a trilogy from the start, with an arc that will conclude in the third film. That way, we can establish these child characters to last over the course of 3 films and really get the audience invested in their fight against Freddy. The group of kids discover that their biological parents all died in unexplained and mysterious ways, only to find out later that they also had older brothers and sisters who were murdered by a man named Freddy Krueger. Unraveling more of the mystery, the kids discover that their biological parents burnt Freddy Krueger alive for killing their children, and that Freddy swore to return and enact revenge. The nightmare scenes in Nightmare on Elm Street are going to be iconic. In one nightmare scene, a little 9-year-old girl is laying in bed trying to stay awake, when suddenly she looks down and her bed is floating in an endless ocean of water. It is dark and the moonlight is beaming down. Suddenly, something big starts making waves in the water. We see that underneath the water is something huge swimming around the girl's bed. She starts to get really scared as there's no escape. Suddenly, the water ripples as this giant sea serpent with a Freddy Krueger face slowly emerges from the water, towering above the little girl's bed, dropping water down everywhere. She screams and the giant Freddy serpent opens its mouth and is about to eat her as she gets woken up by the alarm clock. Nightmare on Elm Street takes Freddy Krueger to the next level and takes the nightmare scenes to a whole new plateau. With the success of it and Stranger Things, the horror audience is ready to see Freddy versus the Goonies, and we can give it to them in a way they will, without a doubt, consider Nightmare on Elm Street to be the scariest film in the franchise yet. Nightmare on Elm Street is a complete reboot of the franchise and not connected to any of the other films. We will, of course, put homages to the original films in this film for fans of the franchise to enjoy, like the characters' names in this movie will be based on characters' names from the original franchise. But other than that, Nightmare on Elm Street is the beginning of an all-new Elm Street universe. So this movie is Freddy versus the Goonies. You have this ragtag group of foster kids who are living in this foster home, having horrible nightmares, and they're unraveling this mystery together like the fucking Goonies and the fucking Losers Club. And this mystery is leading to the truth that, hey, their parents killed this dude named Freddy Krueger because he killed their older brothers and sisters who were just kids, who died before they were even born, that they never even knew existed. And they just had were in these foster homes. So, like I said, the star of the show is not Freddy Krueger himself in this Nightmare on Elm Street, but it is the nightmares themselves that Freddy Krueger is creating. That he is trapping these people in these nightmarish scenarios that they cannot escape. So it's more a focus on the nightmares as opposed to the guy with the razor glove. Don't get me wrong, the guy with the razor glove, the classic Freddy we know and love, is coming back. Of course, we're going to cast someone like Bill Moseley or someone else that could be a horror heavyweight and really pick up the glove after Robert Englund has put it down. Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street would be one hell of a killer reboot for the franchise, especially if we made it a trilogy where these kids survive for the course of 3 films, but they're put in these perilous situations and maybe a few die here and there, but really, it's really the star of the show are these nightmares. And I'm talking about nightmares that are going to haunt the audience for the rest of their lives. You're going to have nightmares about these nightmares. So, I mean, that's the beautiful part of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and that is the beautiful part of the reboot, Nightmare on Elm Street by Evan Lefavor. Before Scream 5 was announced, I started conceptualizing the perfect continuation / reboot of the Scream franchise. And that movie's name is Scream Again. That's right, Scream Again. What is Scream Again? Scream Again. Imagine if you took the film Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Remember that movie? Wes Craven's New Nightmare was based in our reality, where the Freddy Krueger movies are just movies like they are in our reality. And the actress Heather Langenkamp was playing herself, and suddenly Freddy Krueger started coming out of the movies and into the real world to affect the people who made the movie. It was a great concept created by Wes Craven. And speaking of Wes Craven, what would the Scream franchise be without Wes Craven in the first place? So my idea for Scream Again is a merging of the concept of Wes Craven's New Nightmare with Scream. So this movie takes place in the real world, and the cast of Scream is going to come together to celebrate the life of Wes Craven. So Scream Again, the entire cast of Scream Again is the cast from the original Scream movie. So the opening scene of Scream Again is Drew Barrymore in her house. She's about to watch a movie and she starts popping popcorn. And she goes over and she's got her little kitty and she's like petting the cat and she loves the cat. Blah, blah, blah. She's about to put on a movie. And so she goes, she's looking at the popcorn. She comes to sit down. She's got the popcorn. She puts the movie on. And the phone rings. And it's the Scream voice. And he's like, "Hello, Drew." And so she's like, "Who the fuck is this?" And he's like, "Listen to me. You hang up on me, you'll never see your little kitty again." She's like, "What?" And so she stands up. She starts calling for her cat. And she starts running around the house frantically looking for her cat. And she can't find the cat, but there, her back door is ajar, open. So she looks at her open back door. She's like, "Who the fuck is this?" He's like, "I'm watching you, Drew. I've been watching you for a long time." And he starts naming all the movies. He's like, "Ever since Firestarter, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, I've been watching you, Drew." So he tells her, "It's time to play a little game." And he's like, "If you want to see your cat live to see another day, you must answer the following questions correctly." And so he starts asking her these questions, and, she gets some of the questions wrong, and he's like, "I'm sorry, that's the wrong answer." And you hear the cat squealing in the background. So she runs to find her dead cat laying there, Then he attacks her, and boom, it's the Scream killer with the ghost face mask, and he fucking kills Drew Barrymore. And then you hear, someone getting woken up, and it's Neve Campbell. She's like, have you heard the news? Someone killed Drew. And then they turn on the news, and it's everywhere. Drew Barrymore has been murdered. Blah, blah, blah. Actress Drew Barrymore has been murdered. Blah, 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 blah. All over the fucking news, right? And so the cast of Scream come together. They're mourning the death of Drew Barrymore. And they're talking about Wes Craven, memories about making the movie and stuff. And they're all in town because not only are they there for Drew's funeral, but also for the documentary on the remembrance of Wes Craven and the anniversary of Scream. So, lo and behold, the cast of Scream, one by one, we got them all there. Neve Campbell playing herself, David Arquette playing himself, Skeet Ulrich playing himself, Jamie Kennedy playing himself, Matthew Lillard playing himself, Liv Schreiber playing himself, Rose McGowan playing herself. Everybody in this movie is in there playing themselves. The whole cast from the original Scream is back playing themselves. And so it's a fun movie. And they start getting killed off one by one. The cast of Scream starts dying. And I'm not going to tell you which order. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to tell you why. Because this movie might come to be someday. But hey, spoiler warning. Because I am going to reveal who the killer is here in a minute. So at the end, Neve Campbell is the last one standing, and she's tied up to a chair. And here's the killer there with the ghost face mask. And let me tell you about Ghostface before I get into revealing who the killer is. In Scream Again, this Ghostface is the most brutal, vicious Ghostface out of any Scream movies ever. Not only is he physically intense in the way he does the kills and how he hunts people down, but when he's on the phone talking shit to people before they die, he is very sadistic. And you can tell he's a genius, and he's sadistic, and he's not taking no shit from nobody. He says a lot of witty one-liners, and he says a lot of shit on the phone calls that is going to make the audience go, damn, oh shit, damn. And so I really want to give Ghostface a lot of character in Scream Again. Like in the original Scream movies, Ghostface, he's kind of a character, but in this one, I'm taking this character to the next fucking level. And I want to establish the Ghostface killer from Scream Again as the killer from the Scream franchise. This is going to be the icon in the future. So all the Scream movies of the past have been whodunit movies. The entire time you're watching the movie, you are enjoying this discovery of thinking, ooh, who could the killer be? Who is the killer? Who is the killer? And you try to guess who the killer is. And so it is a whodunit movie. So people going into Scream Again are probably expecting it to be a whodunit. They're expecting to have a big revelation at the end that, hey, one of these characters is really the killer. So who is it? Who is the killer? Is David Arquette really the killer? How about Matthew Lillard? Is he the killer? Well, despite any red herrings that might exist within the plot of Scream Again, to one person or another being the killer, Scream Again is not a whodunit movie. Scream Again is a straight-up slasher movie. First and foremost, this is not a movie where the main basis is, who is the killer? I wonder who this killer is. No. This is a movie where from the start of the movie to the end, you're learning who this killer is, based on him showing his personality to the audience through these phone calls and the death scenes and stuff like that. So Ghostface is a killer. He is the character. You know who it is, because it is who it is. So his identity at the end, the big reveal of the identity, He takes off the mask, and it isn't even a character you've ever seen in the whole movie. When he takes off his mask, it's the first time you see his face, and he's got Nev Campbell tied up to a chair, and he's like, oh, here it is. I've been waiting for this moment for so fucking long. He's like, this is the big monologue. This is the big fucking monologue where the killer explains his motives, where the killer explains how he's doing it all for revenge. So he does the whole monologue, right? She's like, oh, you're crazy. You're a fucking psycho. He's like, I'm not crazy. He's like, that's what you expect. You expect someone who does what I've done to be someone who's mentally ill. And I'm not. So he's given his big monologue. And he's explaining to her. He says, you make a living. You criticize me for what I've done. But you, everybody in the Scream franchise has made a living off of a movie that glorifies murder, that glorifies killing. You've made a living. You've made millions of dollars off of the back of murder. You've served these movies to maniacs around the world. And you don't know how they're influencing them. You don't know how these movies are influencing psychos around the world. And then he goes, you want a motive? I'll tell you a motive. He says, my mother was murdered by some psychotic horror movie fan who was wearing a ghost face mask. He was inspired by the Scream movies. Because of you, my mom is gone. Because of your stupid fucking horror movies. You got to make millions and live in mansions. Well, I lost my mom because of you. Because of this fucking filth, this trash that you put out. You ever take responsibility? Any of you who make these horror movies? You take any responsibility for the fact that you're making millions off of murder? And then you criticize me and call me crazy when I do the same shit that you do in these movies? And then he goes, I've been waiting for a long time for this, Sidney. And this is the first Scream movie where the guy playing the killer doesn't use a voice box. He just knows how to imitate the voice perfectly because he's been watching the Scream movies his whole life. He starts talking in the Scream voice, and he's like, I've been waiting for this moment ever since my mother was murdered. To take each and every one of you out. Can I call you Sidney? Do you mind if I call you Sidney? Here it is, Sidney. You're the final girl. You've done it. Now it's time for you to survive. So it's the final showdown. Nev Campbell versus this killer. And how does it end? I can't tell you how it ends, y'all. I don't want to spoil. I've already spoiled too much. I've spoiled too much. So people will be happy when they see Scream again. Because sometimes when you see these Scream movies, the reveal of who the killer really is kind of disappointing. But this time, I've really made the killer his own character, and he's really crazy, and he's really, he's got a personality. He's got a distinct personality. He's like Chucky or Freddy. He's not just a slasher. He's got a really distinct personality, right? And so, Scream again. It's going to be a fun ride. It's not a whodunit. You're not going to watch this movie for the second time and go, wow, I see it a whole different way because now I know who the killer is. No. You're going to watch it one time, and when you get to the reveal of the killer, you're going to be satisfied. The whole time you're going to be satisfied because this isn't a mystery movie. This is just a straight-up slasher movie, a horror movie that is there to entertain the audience. And it is a reflection of this whole controversy of what Scream was all about in the first place, about horror movie fans imitating the horror movies and killing people. So it takes that concept and brings it into the real world, and it makes it something very scary, because there's what's more scary than being an actor in a horror movie franchise and having some psychotic killer out there come after you and the other actors in the movie because they're fucking nuts and they're trying to kill off the real people in the movie. So it's a scary ass movie. It's a scary concept. It makes you realize that it's scary to be a celebrity, that there are these kind of psycho stalkers out there that will do crazy shit and stalk you. And so it's a scary movie. Scream Again is a scary fucking movie. It's not a mystery. And yes, there is some self-referential humor, fourth wall breaking here and there. But really, I want Scream Again to be kind of less of a lighthearted movie and more of a straight up scary movie the whole way through. Like, I really don't want to give the audience too many breaks where they can sigh and relief and laugh and go, ha ha ha. Like, even though the original Scream movies were in that spirit and they did have that kind of relief here and there, I really want Scream Again to be kind of a thrill ride from start to finish where it's really scary. And you really fear for these actors' lives, and, you know, at the same time, you're enjoying the personality of the killer. This is the one Scream movie where I think the killer will win people over and people will really see the killer from Scream Again to be the iconic Ghostface killer. Even though it is outside of the canon of the movies in the way that Wes Craven's New Nightmare was to the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So Scream Again is this epic movie where we bring back the cast of Scream. We give them amazing death scenes, and we have this awesome killer that the audience actually kind of roots for because he's just so fucking witty and funny and like says some crazy shit and does crazy shit. He's like the same way that audiences love Chucky and they love Freddy, and even though those are the bad guys, they kind of root for them because their personalities are so likable in a weird way. I'm adding that element to this Ghostface so that this really does become the iconic Ghostface in Scream Again. So hey, you know the spoilers now, but hey, I might get this movie produced in the future. Would you like to see that? Neve Campbell and all the actors of the original Scream playing themselves and, you know, meeting their demise to some crazy ass Ghostface Scream fans. So, hell yeah, yo. Are you ready to scream again? Oh yeah. And that's a line in the movie. I gotta have the main character go, "Scream again! Scream again! Scream again!" He's like, I'm even put it in the trailer. Ghostface, because this time, since he doesn't use a voice box, he talks to people while he's killing them. It's not just a silent killer, Ghostface chasing motherfuckers. He talks as he's chasing them. He says shit. So, scream again. Evan Lefavor's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hold your fucking horses. Buckle your safety belts because this is going to be a wild ride. So the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was so effective because this was not just a movie about Leatherface. This was a movie about a psychotic, cannibalistic family that was slaughtering people for food. And it was a big statement at the time. And when they remade the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they left out the cannibalism aspect, and it lost a lot of the spirit the original had. So Evan Lefavor's Texas Chainsaw Massacre takes things back to the original and puts it on steroids. So what happens in Evan Lefavor's Texas Chainsaw Massacre? A group of animal rights activists are taking a road trip into the country to a slaughterhouse where they are going to try to hide and film footage of the people working at the slaughterhouse being abusive toward animals. On the way, their car breaks down and shit. So they get drawn to this farmhouse, The moral of the story is, let me break it down to you. I'm not going to do a scene by scene of this movie for you guys because I don't want to spoil it, because I might produce this movie in the future. But in this movie, it is not just about Leatherface. This is about the entire family. We have Leatherface, we have the cook. The cook is back. We have Chop Top is back. I'm bringing these characters back, and we have some new characters. So what happens in this movie is we have a main character who is a vegan animal rights activist. And in this movie, this cannibalistic family ties her to a chair and forces her to eat her dead boyfriend, who they just cooked, in the kitchen right in front of her. That happens in this Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because this Texas Chainsaw Massacre pushes the motherfucking limits, and it takes it back to the original. Okay, this is not just about a chainsaw. This is not just about Leatherface. This is not a fucking slasher movie. This is a movie about a fucking psychotic family of cannibals who kill people for food, and what it's like to be over to their house for dinner. All right, and believe me, when I say you're there for dinner, they're having you for dinner, that goes more ways than one. Okay? So, Evan Lefavor's Texas Chainsaw Massacre is going to be one of the most relentless, terrifying films ever produced in the history of mankind. From the second it starts, you only have a few minutes of levity before you are thrust headfirst into 2 hours of complete terror. The things you will see in this movie will horrify you. They will shock you. They will put you through an experience unlike you have ever had in your life. Right? And yes, do not eat anything before or after you see this fucking movie, because you might puke. Right? And sure, there is going to be some gore in this movie, but what's horrifying is just the idea of what's happening. That's what's scary, is the idea of what's happening. And that's what was scary about the original. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre didn't require gratuitous gore. As a matter of fact, there's hardly a drop of blood in that movie other than the scene where the hitchhiker, cuts himself. That's like the only bloodshed in that movie. But still, people who have seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre remember it as being one of the goriest movies ever made, because the idea of what happens in that movie left such an impression on their imaginations as they watched it. Because this idea of a cannibalistic family who has no empathy for human beings because they kill them for food is such a strong and horrifying message. And that is what is spotlighted in Evan Lefavor's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, yes, this is a true remake of the original, but we take it to the next level. Because of the fact that these main characters are animal rights activists who believe that animals should be treated like human beings and should not be slaughtered like they are. It puts a spotlight on the fact that Texas Chainsaw Massacre has always been an animal rights movie in a way. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, was always kind of a commentary on eating meat in general. And it was a way for people who watched the movie to kind of put themselves in the position that the animals are in at these slaughterhouses, so that they can kind of feel some empathy for these animals. So that's why I want to throw that aspect in a more blatant way into this movie, so that we have some parallels there. But yeah, so I'm going to subvert some expectations here or there, throw in some new shit, really upplay the cannibalistic aspect of this film, and that is why Evan Lefavor's Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a movie you're going to want to see in the future. Because believe me, they're going to want to make a cool remake of Texas Chainsaw soon. So, this could be it. Are you ready for the grand finale? Evan Lefavor's Child's Play. A lot of people have asked me, Evan, what would you do if you were hired to write a remake for Child's Play? What would you do if you were working for MGM and they wanted you to come up with a Child's Play remake? Well, you're about to find out exactly that. Are you ready for Child's Play, Evan Lefavor style? Oh, wait. So Evan Lefavor's Child's Play opens up with this little boy, and he's in his house, and it's his birthday, and it's this really creepy vibe. So this dude comes up to this little boy, and he leans down, and he's like, "Hi, Chucky. I'm your Uncle Charles. Do you know why you and I have the same name?" And little Chucky goes like this. And then Uncle Charles goes, "It's because today is a very special day. I remember on my 6th birthday, it was a very special day for me too. Because my real name is Dambala, and we will live forever." And then it cuts to this weird scene where they lead the little boy over to this chair, and Uncle Charles and these other family members are standing around, and they start doing this weird voodoo shit and doing these chants, and their eyes are rolling in the back of their heads, and they bring out this chicken and they slice the chicken's neck, and they're like hanging the chicken upside down, and blood's dripping out of the chicken, and the little boy Chucky is like screaming and he's scared. And then Uncle Charles comes up and he's got all this weird voodoo stuff on, and and people are blowing smoke and all this stuff, and he goes up and he cuts his hand open, and he puts his bleeding hand on the forehead of the kid, and he starts going, "Ate to eat Embella. Give me the power, I beg of you. Never mercy devo shailo sakuzinte me pade mort." And then, boom, this big lightning blast comes out and hits the house. Then it cuts to 30 years later. And we see little Andy Barkley, who lives with his mom, Karen. And Andy Barkley is the biggest fan. It's about to be his 6th birthday, and he is the biggest fan of Play Pals. That's right. There's a show on TV called Play Pals, and these Play Pals are these little dudes with overalls and striped shirt and little sneakers, just like the good guy dolls, right? Except these guys, they have their own advanced toy. The Play Pal is coming to the market as a new toy. It's an advanced robotic AI super toy. All right, but we're not talking about what they did in the Child's Play remake of 2019, where it can control all your devices and it does all this smartphone shit. No, it's not like that. All right, this is just a toy that is eerily lifelike. These Play Pals toys, they talk on their own. They move their face around. They look real. And so I want the doll to be very creepy to begin with. It's going to look like classic Chucky, but it's going to look even creepier, even more lifelike, even more eerie. Okay, but it's going to have that classic Chucky look. But these are not the good guys. These are the Play Pals. And so the Play Pals, Andy wants one of these so fucking bad, and so he's watching Play Pals on TV, and they show the commercial. It's about to be his birthday, and he runs in to bring his mom breakfast in bed, and he's like, "I really want a Play Pal for my birthday," and he's like, "I can't afford it," and he's like, "Can I ask Daddy? Why can't Dad give me one?" She's like, "That's a good question. Why don't you ask him?" So immediately, people watching Evan Lefavor's Child's Play, they're gonna have their expectations subverted. They've seen the original, they've seen the remake, but now I'm going to play with their expectations by subverting them whenever I get the chance to do it correctly. So the first subversion of expectations is that, hey, you find out that Andy's dad is still alive. And Andy's dad is divorced from Karen. So you've got Andy's dad, and he's separated from Karen and Andy. So Andy goes over and visits his dad on the weekends. All right. But both his mom and dad are struggling financially, and neither of them can afford to get him one of these nearly $1,000 dolls. So it's a big conundrum. So Karen works at Good Guys Toys. That's right, Good Guys Toys. And they are going to start selling the Play Pal. In just a couple days, they are going to sell the Play Pal. That's right, it's going to be the big launch of the Play Pal. So Karen works with a girl named Nancy at the toy store. We see her interact with Karen, and Nancy leaves, and she is attacked by Charles Lee Ray, who kidnaps her. She's kidnapped by Charles Lee Ray. She wakes up, and she is being part of a voodoo ritual. And we've got Charles Lee Ray there, and he's got his classic voodoo knife, the Damballa voodoo knife, and he starts asking them. He says, what do you know about Karen Barkley? What do you know about her son Andy? And he starts asking her all these questions, and she's not telling him shit. So he starts torturing her, and he kills her in this psychotic voodoo ritual. So this is a really intense scene because I want to establish Charles Lee Ray as a brutal serial killer who is psychotic and who tortures his victims and who does voodoo rituals as he's torturing and killing his victims and acts as if he's swallowing their souls and shit. All right, like he's feeding off of killing them. Right? Somehow it's giving him power. So anyway, in this scene, we see what Charles Lee Ray looks like. We see him. So Karen Barkley is working the next morning at Good Guys Toys, and in comes fucking Charles Lee Ray. And he starts asking her questions. And he's like, oh yeah, and he's being really fucking creepy and shit. And she's like trying to get him out of the store, kind of like, what is this dude doing in this store? And we've seen just the scene before that we've seen this dude do some really sick psychotic shit. We know that he knows who she is, and she doesn't know that. So it's a very tense scene. And then here comes Andy's dad with Andy Barkley, and they come up, and Andy's dad is bringing Andy to Karen's work so that she can go back to her house with him, with Andy. So Charles Lee Ray looks down at Andy, and he's like, oh, hey, little guy. Boy, you must love this toy store, huh? Oh, if only I could be 6 years old again. Hey, you want to trade places with me? He looks down at the little kid, and Karen's like, hey, excuse me, but do you have any business here in the store? Because, you know, so he goes, okay, yeah, I just wanted to see what's going on. And are you guys, it's like, are you guys going to be having that Play Pals doll? That looks pretty cool. She's like, yep, we're having the grand opening tomorrow night. He's like, okay, cool, I'll be here. He leaves. So Andy goes home with Karen, and she gets a call from her manager and says that Nancy didn't show up to work tonight, and can she come in to stock the store for the Play Pals release the next day. So Karen has to have Andy's dad come pick up Andy again. So Andy's dad comes to pick up Andy, and he has a little confrontation with Karen. They have a little heated argument there for a second. So Karen gets to work at Good Guys Toys at night, and Griswold is there. He's about to leave, and he's just telling Karen, he goes, so you've got to set up the entire Play Pals display. I want you to take out one of the Play Pals. I want you to remove the battery pack from his back and place him as the display model. That way, if anyone tries to steal him, they're going to have a play pal that doesn't work. And so she goes in there and she pulls she's all alone and she pulls the play pal out of the box. She's like, oh, you're just going to be a display model, huh? She's like, if only I could bring you home to my son, he would love you. So she turns him over, unzips the back of his overalls, and pulls out the play pal's battery pack out of the back of the doll, puts it back, and sets the doll up as the display model. Then, all of a sudden, Charles Lee Ray shows up at the store. And he runs up to the door and he's like, help! Help me! Help me! I'm being chased! I'm being chased! Before Karen left for work, her and Andy were watching TV and the news came on and it said the Lakeshore Strangler has killed 10 victims in the area and he is still at large and we have no idea who the Lakeshore Strangler is, but and then it shows Detective Norris, and Detective Norris in this movie is a female. That's right. She is a Hispanic female, Detective Norris, in this movie. And the reporters are coming up to ask her, who is the Lakeshore Strangler? Who is the Lakeshore Strangler? And she's like, get out of my face, get out of my face. And so that night, Karen puts the Play Pals doll up on to the display. And all of a sudden, banging on the door comes Charles Lee Ray. And he's like, help! Help! I'm being chased! The Lakeshore Strangler is out here! The Lakeshore Strangler is out here! He's gonna kill me! Help! Help! And so she pushes this button underneath the desk, this emergency button. And she goes and she opens up the gate. And here he comes running in. She's like, thank God. Thank God. The Lakeshore Strangler was out there. She's like, where? Where is he? He's like, he's in here. He's in here with you. And he grabs her. He throws her down. And he's like, about to kill her. And he's like slashing at her. He's like, Mrs. Barkley, your little boy, Andy. And he's slicing her up, and she's getting sliced all over and trying to fight back, but he's got her down. He's got the voodoo knife out, and he's cutting her, making little cuts on her. And he's like, I'm coming for your son. I'm coming for him. Me and him are gonna be very, very close. And he's slicing her. He's like, I remember when I was his age. I was scared too. But it's gonna be okay. I promise. And then he stabs her. And then it's like he's sucking the soul out of her body, and his eyes roll into the back of his head, and he starts dripping the blood, and he's like, Mighty Damballa, give me the power, I beg of you. And then the cop car rolls up, and it's Detective Norris, and she rolls in, and she's like, boom, boom, boom. She shoots Charles. He's like, oh. There's all this blood coming out of his mouth. And he runs over, and he knocks over this display case, and there's the fucking Play Pals doll. And he grabs it, and he's like, and he puts his hand on the forehead of the doll, and he says, Ate tui tembela, give me the power, I beg of you. And his eyes roll in the back of his head. He starts saying the chant, and then boom! The entire toy store just explodes. And Detective Norris goes flying out of the front. And she's still alive. And you're watching as shit's on fire, but the doll, the Play Pals doll, was blown from the wreckage, and you see Charles Lee Ray's dead body there. So the next scene is Andy and his father getting the news from Detective Norris that Karen was killed. Karen was killed by Charles Lee Ray, who was the notorious Lakeshore Strangler, and that they shot him and killed him in the toy store. So Andy and his dad are devastated, and now Andy has to go live with his dad full time. So we've subverted expectations here. You're not expecting Karen Barkley to die. She does. So now Andy is living with his dad, and his dad's friend is like, hey, check this out. I found one of those Play Pals dolls for really cheap at this thrift store. You gotta see it. He's like, thrift store? It just came out. How could it already be at a thrift store? He's like, do you care? Do you want to get this doll for Andy or what? So he goes to the thrift store and he grabs the Play Pals doll, and it's in the box and everything. He's like, where did you get this thing? And the guy at the pawn shop's like, don't ask questions, man. Come on now. You want it or not? And he's like, I want it. So he buys the Play Pals doll, brings it home for Andy. And so they activate the Play Pals doll, and it starts moving around and talking and walking around, and it's like, hello, Andy. And Andy's like all happy and shit. So each Play Pals doll comes pre-installed with its own unique original name, and this doll's name happens to be Chucky. That's right, Chucky. At least that's what it says. So the movie starts, and Andy and Chucky are just bonding, and they're having this fun time together, and they're doing all this stuff together. But as soon as they're alone, shit starts getting weird. Like, it cuts to Chucky. He starts talking to Andy. He says, Andy, my real name is Charles, and I've been sent by your mommy from heaven to play with you. So these scenes from the original movie where Chucky talks to Andy and tells him he's alive and tells him his real name is Charles and all this stuff, that we actually see in Evan Lefavor's Child's Play. We actually see those creepy scenes of Charles Lee Ray manipulating Andy, and Andy's father not being able to detect that this manipulation is going on because this Play Pals doll, it walks, it talks. And so when Andy comes to him and says, Chucky's talking to me, Andy's dad is like, yeah, of course he's talking to you. That's what those Play Pals dolls do. They talk to you. So a 6-year-old kid is going to imagine that his doll is alive. So when Andy starts telling his dad that Chucky is alive, that this doll is alive, his dad does not believe him because he thinks it's just this advanced toy, and that the kid is just using his imagination, and that is just how a kid reacts to an advanced toy like a Play Pals. So the Play Pals doll, it looks creepy to begin with, like really creepy, because it's eerily lifelike, like it's alive already, right? So it always looks like the possessed, scary Chucky type look. It's always really freaking creepy and lifelike and human. So anyway, Andy goes to school, and he's getting bullied at school. There's these bullies that are threatening to beat him up and all this shit, and he befriends this other kid, and the other kid comes over for a sleepover. So this kid is going to stay overnight with Andy, and they're going to have a sleepover, and so they're like watching movies, and this kid is like creeped out by the Play Pals doll. And at night, he's got to get up to use the bathroom, and everything's dark, and the Chucky doll's just sitting there, and it's like its eyes are just staring at him, and the kid's like trying to go to the bathroom, but the whole time he's staring at that doll. And then the kid comes back, and the doll's gone, it's moved, and it's in another place, and all of a sudden the Play Pals doll comes alive and starts chasing the little kid, and dun 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 dun, and Chucky kills the little kid. So Andy's dad wakes up in the morning and finds the dead kid in his house, right? And he's freaking out. What the fuck is going on? He calls 911. Detective Norris shows up. She's questioning Andy Barkley. She's questioning Andy's dad. And they're the number one suspects because they were there in the house. Why didn't they hear the kid being killed? Like, how did they not hear this happen? Like, she's just asking them 1,000,001 questions. So right now, Andy Barkley and his dad are the prime suspects in this kid's murder. So all of a sudden, they're like devastated. They're like, holy shit, what the fuck happened? They're scared. They're really scared. And so suddenly people in Andy's life start getting killed. Like the bullies at school, Andy brings the Play Pals doll with to school. And the kids that were bullying Andy get chased down and killed by Chucky. That's right, Chucky kills kids in this movie. I know. It's taboo. Hey, Freddy was a child murderer. Why can't Chucky do it too? Right? Come on. So, anyways, all these people start getting killed off that are surrounding Andy and surrounding Andy's dad. And the evidence keeps piling up to make it implicate that perhaps it is Andy or Andy's dad that is doing the killing. Andy starts becoming convinced that it is Chucky doing the killing. He tries to convince his dad, who doesn't believe him. And he tries to convince Detective Norris, who doesn't believe them. And they take Andy away from his dad and put him in a psychiatric facility where they're questioning him and all this stuff. So Andy's dad is at home and he's got the fucking Play Pals doll. And he's like, I'm fucking sick of you. He's like, you have ruined my fucking life. And he's like, he's got the doll. And he's like, you know what, motherfucker? I am going to kill you. You know, you can't be alive without your battery, can you? You can't even fucking walk or talk or do anything without your fucking battery, can you? Well, I can take it out. And so he turns the Play Pals doll over, opens it up. Boom, there's no battery in there to begin with, and the head spins around, and he's like, hi, I'm Chucky, wanna play? And he drops the doll, and it rolls under the couch, and he's like, he doesn't know where the fuck the Chucky doll is, and he's looking around, and the Chucky doll comes alive, and he's like, ah! And so he attacks the dad, stabs him in the leg, and runs out, and he bites the dad in the arm, too. Of course, he's got to bite the dad in the arm, and then he runs out. So the dad tracks down Detective Norris, and he's telling her, he's like, Chucky was alive. I swear to God, Chucky's alive. He just attacked me in our house. He's been operating without batteries this entire time. And she's like, Chucky? The doll's name is Chucky? He's like, yes. And this whole time, all these murders, Chucky has been leaving little signatures that only Charles Lee Ray would leave behind at crime scenes. He's been leaving those little signatures at these people he has been killing. And the Detective Norris, even though all the evidence implicates Andy's dad and Andy as being the potential killers, there are still these little things that only Charles Lee Ray would do that are happening at these crime scenes. And so she starts looking into Charles Lee Ray. She finds out that he's into voodoo, he's into all this shit. And she doesn't know if she believes it or not. And then all of a sudden, boom, she gets attacked in her car. Chucky's trying to strangle her. She crashes. Boom, there's a big old scuffle. The car gets flipped. So Detective Norris's car is flipped over. And Chucky is circling the car. And he's laughing. And she's shooting all her bullets out at him and missing. And then she finally hits him. Ah! He's like, you bitch! And he comes in and he just jumps on her and stabs her right in the eye. And Detective Norris dies. Chucky's like, no. Ah, that hurts. He's like, I'm turning human. I gotta get the fuck out of this body. And so Chucky starts realizing that he's turning human. He starts realizing that he's going to be trapped in this doll if he doesn't get out of this body soon. So he starts going after Andy. So they cut to the psychiatric facility, and Andy is struggling. He's like, no, Chucky's alive. Chucky's alive. He's going to come kill me. And he's frantic. So they grab him, and they put this shot. They inject him with this shot. And they're like, it's only going to make you a little sleepy, Andy. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to fight it. And anyway, then Chucky shows up, and he kills the doctors. He escapes with Andy. Andy's still awake, but he's like dazed. He's dazed. So around the corner is this toy store, and Chucky and Andy go into the toy store. They break through the window. They go in to the Play Pals toy department. Chucky has Andy lay down. He gets down. He starts doing the Damballa ritual. Ade dui Dembella. Give me the power, I beg of you. And all of a sudden, the Chucky doll just falls back, lifeless. Little Andy sits up. So, all of a sudden, the police show up. They come into the toy store, and there's Andy. And he's looking up at them. They're like, "You're going to have to come with us, son." And then it cuts to an interrogation room. And Andy's in the interrogation room, and he starts saying that his father did all the killings, that his father admitted to him that he murdered all these people, that the night when his friend had the sleepover, it was his father that killed him, and that his father came up with this lie to say that it was a Chucky doll that did it, just to try to throw them off the scent. So then the next scene is them showing up to arrest Andy's dad. So in the end of Child's Play, Chucky succeeds. He succeeds in transferring his soul into Andy's body. And as soon as he does, he implicates Andy's dad as the killer. And Andy's dad gets blamed for all the murders and goes to prison, while Chucky gets to go free as little Andy Barkley. And thus, Chucky wins. The last scene is Andy leaving the room, and you just see the door close, and there's just a little sliver of his eye, just like the end of the first Child's Play. And then, boom, we hit that Child's Play theme, and that is Child's Play. Evan Lefavor style, Evan Lefavor's Child's Play. What do you think of them apples? Ooh-wee. So there you have it, the 111 Illuminati Halloween special for the year of 2020. I hope you have enjoyed going into the world of these films I have created for you to enjoy in this video. Sure, you know, some of these movies might actually get made in the future, some of them might not, but at least we have this video so that we can at least enjoy the concepts of these movies in the form they currently exist in, which is just poured out of my imagination onto your imagination right here in celebration of Halloween. So I hope you enjoy all of October, because you know what? I start celebrating Halloween on November 1st every year. That's right, on 11/1. I start having fun. That's when Halloween really starts. Halloween goes from 11/1 to 10/31 every year. That's right, 365 days of Halloween starts soon. And this is just the culmination, Halloween of 2020, and I hope you have enjoyed this Halloween special. I am your friend forever, Evan Lefavor. Ooh-wee, share if you care, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Ooh-wee, happy Halloween.